What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is iRate Reviews, the review show where I go over a comic book, its story, its art, give you my impressions, and fill you in a little bit about what it's all about. So make sure you subscribe to get more of these. But to start off with, let's talk about Batman number 32. So Batman number 32 is the finale for the War of Jokes and Riddles story arc, and the art has primarily been done by Tom King and Mikel Janin. So in Batman number 32, let's just jump right into the story. To start off with, we see Bruce and Selina kind of kicking on the bed, post-coitus, I'm sure. But, he's in the middle of relaying his story of what happened during the War of Jokes and Riddles, which is probably, well, at this point in time, or at least what Batman considers, according to Tom King, one of the bloodiest and probably the most, I want to say, kind of vulnerable stages of Batman. He was a fresh Batman on the scene, didn't really know how to take on these two different villains and their very different perspectives. And finally, at the culmination of this story, we see Batman, the Joker, and the Riddler all in the same room, and they're in conflict, so Batman is battling both against both of them, and nobody is on any kind of allegiance or has any kind of sides in this fight. And finally we see, the Joker pushed back, the Riddler on the ground, begging for mercy from Batman. However, this isn't necessarily a valid ploy here. This isn't actually the result. This, it turns out, was all the entire, the plan of Edward Nygma the entire time. So it seems like, from the beginning to the end, when his first confrontation with the Joker happened in the beginning part of the War of Jokes and Riddles, everything up to that point in time has gone according to what the Riddler has seen fit, to try and set up the most elaborate joke for the Joker, to make him laugh again. This in itself isn't really a surprise, since Edward Nygma always has fancied himself one of the most intelligent of Batman's villains. But what it really comes down to is the fact that he is not successful. He has failed to figure out how to make the Joker laugh. It is a riddle that he can't seem to crack. And when Batman tries to intervene in this, he immediately, slaps him down like a petulant child, and really reinforces the fact that not every single story is about Batman. And in this case, Edward Nygma, the Riddler, has already figured out Batman to his core. And not only could he kill Batman, but kill everyone that Batman loves and have him be in the ditch by tomorrow. So that gives a real strong sense of mortality, and it really implies to me as the reader that the Riddler knows Bruce Wayne's Batman. He knows who's associated with Batman. It makes it very difficult for us to assume that he has any kind of secret identity intact. And the only thing keeping Batman's secret identity intact is just the Riddler's sense of, his whimsical nature, let's call it that. But ultimately at that point in time, it's just really messed up to see this entire thing happen. How he went through and destroyed and set up for success the entirety of Kite Man, and how everything fits together as far as WOJAR is concerned. So as we kind of relay this situation, Batman, fed up with this kind of frustration, still young, still a little bit green in this whole situation, reaches for the knife that the Joker had used to kill the man that's still lying on the floor next to them, reaches for it and stabs forward. We find that the man that you don't expect to intervene does, driving the knife straight through his hand, staring at it, and saying, "Now that's funny." And that's the interesting perspective, because, we get a whole lot of back and forth, talking about the difference between what's a joke and what's a riddle. And then we have this whole situation where Selina and Batman, Bruce and Selina, they're having this conversation about, Bruce is, I'm supposed to be so much better than him. I have a code, but I'm only what he made me. And Selina's like, I don't care, and blah, 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 blah. And then we get into the whole marriage proposal thing, and then instead of demanding, that she marry him, ask like he should, be a good boy and do such a thing. And he asks and she says yes, and it's like, yay, rejoice. But the big thing is about that storyline. What makes it funny? Because Riddler, I'm sure what he doesn't understand as far as the concept in the Joker's mind, what he doesn't understand in the concept is that his elaborate setup, the fact that, this successful villain, this nemesis of both Batman and the Joker's, is on the ground, beaten and begging for mercy at the hands of a double cross by Kite Man. Somebody as ridiculous as Kite Man should be hysterical in terms of, its nature. It should seem farcical. It should seem beyond comprehension, so to the point where it elicit laughter. However, what the Joker keys in on is that through this entire process by calling, out Batman, this defender of Gotham, and, basically saying that his efforts are feeble at best, that he could be bested and destroyed at any point in time due to Nigma's superior intellect, and the fact that this man with this moral code throws it aside at the behest, or basically at the memory of Charlie Brown's dead son at the hands of the Riddler, and then proceeds to throw it all away to kill this man. That is funny, because it's just the situation that you least expected to happen, or at least that Nigma least expected to happen, was the thing that happened. And that is what regained the Joker really found himself in that moment. And I can totally understand why that would happen. Overall, it makes for a really compelling kind of story arc. I'm really happy with the conclusion of War and Jokes and Riddles, just based on that story twist alone. I really could care a little bit less about the whole Bruce and Selina thing. I think that the whole setup as far as this was a little bit too... It wasn't necessary, and I will admit that War of Jokes and Riddles was a little bit long in the tooth. It could have been probably an issue less and still had the same kind of impact, if not felt it just a touch tighter. But overall, I think that the journey for War of Jokes and Riddles is well worth the actual reading of the series. And here's the honesty. Mikel Janin has crushed the art on this. His Batman renditions, his renditions of Bruce, everything about these characters and their portrayals and their artistic, the style that he presents them in is just great. I really love the look of this book. Mikel Janin has been one of my favorite artists on Batman ever since he did this fantastic spread of Arkham Asylum in one of the earlier issues of Batman. It's just phenomenal what he can do with this kind of, this thematic setting. So I'm really stoked on Batman number 32. I think that it's a really solid arc. I think it's going to read extremely well in trade. It's just going to feel a little bit better when the pacing's just a touch quicker and you can read everything kind of back to back to back. That is where it's going to make the most sense for me. But overall, I really can't fault Tom King or Mikel Janin, and I'm interested to see where the developments in the story, because you have a much tighter and much more specific bond between the Joker and Batman, and you have this kind of, this favor, or this real kind of, plot point that is just hanging and dangling there, regarding Nigma's Riddler and the identity of Batman and the potential for the destruction of this, Caped Crusader here. So I'm really excited about Batman 32, and that makes me really hopeful for where Batman's going in the future. But I want to know what you guys thought too about Batman number 32, so hit me up in the comments down below and we can start a conversation about this book. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything having to do with the world of comics.